Alright guys, I am back once again with another deck profile from Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we have version 1 of my Brandt Gate Orfist deck, which of course version 1 is everything through the first additional card pass through the booster set 7, although this deck is only using cards from the base game, so you don't have to buy any DLC to play this deck. But as you can see, this deck is actually based around the original version of Orfist, and not the new form he got later, which was Orfist Regis. So, I wanted to build a deck around this version of Orfist, because I just think he's cool. However, this deck is very, very much a just for fun kind of deck. It is lacking in many aspects, mostly because once they came out with Orfist Regis, all of the support was geared towards him, and they pretty much abandoned this form of Orfist entirely. But I did the best I could. So we will be going through the deck as always, and then we'll show it in one card fight. So starting first with the Ride deck, we of course have our Grade 0 starter, which is Cardinal Fang Fovi. So when this unit is rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Of course the standard D-Series starter. Next up for our Grade 1, we have Cardinal Noid Routus. So its auto ability, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, search your deck for up to one world card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then he's got a continuous ability when he's on Rearguard Circle. This is during the battle this unit attacked or boosted. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2000. So he never ends up on Rearguard Circle, so that second ability isn't relevant. However, his first ability is very useful, letting you search out a world card from your deck, which world cards are a special type of set orders that this deck revolves around, and all of them share an ability where if you have one of them in your order zone, then your world becomes Dark Knight, and if you have two or more, then your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight, which is basically just a status that doesn't do anything in and of itself other than turn on abilities such as these. So this card can guarantee you at least one world order, which the way this deck works, we really don't need more than two. You can put more than two into play if you want to, but two is really all you need in order to get all your stuff online and at full strength. So next for our Grade 2, we have Cardinal Noid Cubicia. So his auto ability, when a world is put into your order zone, you can choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5000 until end of turn. And then of course he has a continuous ability when he's on Rearguard Circle during your turn. If your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets power plus 5000. So again, he never ends up on Rearguard Circle, so that second ability doesn't really matter. First ability, mildly useful. We do have a Grade 2 World Order in this deck that you do want to play on turn 2. So after you ride into him, when you play that order, it does just let you power up one of your units by an extra 5k. So it can help you push a little harder on turn 2. So then we have our Grade 3, which is Cardinal Deus Orfist. So he has a continuous ability that's active on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle that says, during your turn, if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, then this unit gets power plus 5000. Then he also has his activate ability when he's on Vanguard Circle that says, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can Counterblast 2 and call up to 3 Shadow Army tokens to Rearguard Circle. So you can't see token units when you're not in a game, so I'll get a screenshot and put it up here, but Shadow Army tokens are just vanilla Grade 1 units with 15,000 base power. So this unit lets you call out 3 of those at the same time. So very helpful in filling in your field. It does have a little steep of a cost since it is a Counterblast 2, so you do have to mind your resources. But getting those 3 token units out on your field, very helpful in increasing the power of all of your attacks, as well as some of our other units needing Shadow Army tokens out on the field as part of their costs. So this unit being able to produce 3 tokens in one go is the main token generator of the deck. So that is our ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we do have 3 additional copies of Cardinal Gate Orfist, SP, of course, just for aesthetic reasons. So next up, we have 1 copy of Cardinal Draco Zelgio. So his auto ability, when this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire a Shadow Army token. And until end of that battle, when your opponent would call cards from hand to Guardian Circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So this is the first of our units that uses Shadow Army tokens as part of its skill. You do have to retire 1 on your field, but it does give him a guard restrict, forcing him to call 2 or more cards when they guard. So can be helpful in whittling down your opponent's hand. Next up, we have 1 copy of Lightning Thief Monster Jabatail. So his continuous ability says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, when this unit would attack, it battles all of the units in one of your opponent's columns. So this card can just be annoying. It can attack an entire column at a time, as long as you have your 2 World Orders set up. So if you attack into their Vanguard, he can just constantly harass their Vanguard booster if they have one. So that can be very helpful in certain decks. Or alternatively, if you want to focus more on control, you can attack into one of their rearguard units that has a booster behind it, and you can take out an entire column at once potentially if they don't guard it. So pretty useful card in picking apart your opponent's board. So then for our last grade 3, we have 3 copies of our first World Order, which is In the Darkness Nobody Knows. So you can play this card with a Soul Blast 1, and when this card is put into the Order Zone, you can choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. So again, just another control option for the deck. And then it has the continuous ability that all of the World Orders have, that is active when it's in your Order Zone. That says if your Order Zone only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your Order Zone. And if you have 1 card, your world becomes Dark Knight, and if you have 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So again, that is just the key skill of the deck, changing your world into either Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. All the World Orders all share that same skill. So yeah, it's just very necessary to make the deck function. So that is all of the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Draco HD60 S. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but that's what I'm going to go with. So anyways, he's got his continuous ability that says if your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2,000. And if it is Abyssal Dark Knight instead, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So it can be up to a 15k beat stick if you have your 2 World Orders. And then he has his auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can retire 3 Shadow Army tokens and stand this unit. So he is the restander of the deck, giving you your 4th attack. It does require you to eat 3 of your Shadow Army tokens in order to do so. So most of the time that's going to be the 3 that you called off of Orfist's skill. So again, kind of steep cost. You have to be able to continuously generate new tokens every turn if you want to keep using this card. However, what is good about him, since he restands when he attacks, you can attack with your Vanguard first, and any triggers you get you can stack on top of him, and he'll have that power boost and potentially an extra critical if you get a crit trigger. He'll have all of that for both of his attacks. So this card is definitely the most important card in the deck in terms of your offense. So next up we have 2 copies of Cardinal Draco Alviderd. So his continuous ability during your turn, if your world is Dark Knight, it gets power plus 2,000, and if it's Abyssal Dark Knight instead, it gets power plus 5,000. So basically the same skill as HD60. And then he's got his auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can retire a Shadow Army token to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So again, just another control option for the deck. Another Shadow Army retire cost as well, so you do want to be careful since the cost for this card and Zelgio do conflict with the cost for Destigade, since in most instances you're not going to have more than 3 Shadow Army tokens out on the field, and you have to retire all 3 of those for Destigade skill. So if your front row is Destigade and Alviderd, or Destigade and Zelgio, you're probably only going to be able to use one of those skills, which Destigade is obviously the better choice in most situations. So do keep that in mind. So lastly, for our grade 2s, we have our other World Order in the deck, which is 4 copies of Hallowing Moonlit Night. So you can play this with a Soul Blast 1, and it's got its auto ability. When this card is put into the order zone, you can draw a card. So just a good cycling card there, helping you maintain your card advantage. And then of course it has the same continuous ability as the other World Orders do, that changes your world to Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. So this is the grade 2 World Order in the deck. You do want to play this one on turn 2, so you can hit Abyssal Dark Knight by turn 3 when you ride into Orfist, so you can use his skill. You can search this out off of Rautus's ability, so you should always have this one on turn 2. You do have to hard draw into your second World Order, either another copy of this one or of the grade 3 one, in order to get your Abyssal Dark Knight. But we do have another card that can help make that a little bit easier as well. So that is all of our grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 2 copies of Cardinal Fang Rayosea. So his auto ability, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 world card from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is the card I just mentioned that helps you dig for your World Orders if you really need another one in your hand. It could whiff because it only checks the top 3, but it has no cost either, so if it does whiff, you don't really lose out on anything. And then additionally, he has his activate ability that says if your Vanguard is Cardinal Deus Orfist, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire this unit and call a Shadow Army token to your Rearguard Circle. So after you use his on-call skill, he would otherwise just be a vanilla on your board. So for the cost of 1 soul, he can basically just replace himself with a Shadow Army token, which will have more base power than him, so if nothing else, it would be a stronger unit on your field. Also, that's a good way to fill in empty circle on your board. If you maybe retired only 1 Shadow Army token in the turn before for Alviderd's skill or whatever, then you can easily fill in that circle again without having to use Orfist skill and only call 1 unit off of it. So overall, pretty useful card. Next, we have 2 copies of Cardinal Principal Kagula. So its auto ability, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if your world is Dark Knight, you may Soul Charge 1, and if it is Abyssal Dark Knight instead, you may Soul Charge 2. And then he has his activate ability, which is pretty much the same as Rayosea's, that says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire this unit, and call a Shadow Army token to Rearguard Circle. So again, he fills a similar role as Rayosea does, to where you can just call it to Rearguard and Soul Charge, which we do have quite a bit of Soul Blasting abilities in this deck. So fuel the soul back up when you call it, and then you can retire it and just have it replace itself with another Shadow Army token. So helpful in both maintaining your resources and getting more Shadow Army tokens out onto your field. Next, we have 4 copies of Detonation Monster Bobble Mine. So his auto ability, at the end of the battle this unit boosted, if your order zone has a set order, you can put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1. So this is the countercharger of the deck. Orfist skill does cost a counterblast 2. So if the game goes long, you are going to need some countercharging in order to be able to keep generating your tokens. So this card is very helpful in that. Builds up your soul as well. It is a minus overall, but it does give you 2 resources back. So overall, a very useful card. So the only other grade 1s we have are our Sentinels. So we have 3 copies of Violate Dragon. Just your standard Perfect Guard. And then of course 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which I am just running rainbow triggers in this deck. So we have 4 crit, 3 front, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So first off, for the crit triggers, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Barbazonde. So just your vanilla crit. Next, for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Draco in Pyro. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So 20k shield. Next, for the draws, we have 4 copies of Ameliorate Connector. So again, draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So 10k shield for the draw trigger. And then, of course, the heal is 4 copies of Cardinal Prima Nabilim. So just your vanilla heal. As always, if you do want to run the effect ones, you can. It's just player preference. And then lastly, our 1 over trigger is Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldo Breath. So his additional effect, you can double the power and critical of all of your front row units until end of turn. So extremely powerful skill, makes all of your units hit for very massive numbers and at least 2 crit. So always a very good card to check into. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight. And we will face Kana. And we will be going second. Alright, so let's discard one of these Bubble Mines to ride Routus. I'll use FuRyu skill to draw. And then Routus' skill to add a World Order to our hand. And we'll add the grade 3 one, since we already have one of the grade 2 in our hands. So then we can just go ahead and attack.
Vanguardにアタック。ノーガード。ドライブチェックだよ。ダメージチェック。ターンエンド。スタンド&ドロー。ライド。
Which I really wish they would make some new support for Cardinal Deus Orfist. I know they abandoned him for Regis, but they reprinted Cardinal Deus in the Triple Drive booster, I think it was. So I wish they'd make some new support for him. Give him like a World Order that's name locked to him specifically that does something broken or something. They could come up with something. Make Cardinal Deus great again. Or great for the first time, I guess. Yeah, we'll let that through too. And as much as I hate to, I think I'm gonna have to let that through too. Alright, so let's discard one of these Alvidards to ride Cubicea. And we will go ahead and call this to Jade and Elgato. And then we can play our World Order. So we Soul Blast one. To play Hallowing Moonlit Night. And use its skill to draw. And then use Cubicia's skill to get 5,000 power, and we'll give it to Elgato. So then, I think we are good, so we will go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first.
ノーガード
ドライブチェックだよ。
ダメージチェックヒールトリガー
She gets a heal trigger when she doesn't get, but she gets the power, so that's going to shut down our rear guards, at least as far as attacking her Vanguard. So we will attack into her rear guards and take them out instead. Which can actually really hurt this deck, because she needs a full field in order to restand Fortia next turn.
私のターンドロー楽しいねライドコールコールヴァンガードにアタック
And she couldn't get a full field, so she's only going to get 3 attacks this turn. So we will guard that one.
ガード。
ヴァンガードにアタックだよ
And we will let that one through.
ノーガードだよ。
ドライブチェックドロートリガー
She gets a draw trigger.
ドライブチェッククリティカルトリガー
Oh, and a crit on top
ク
of
リ
that.
ティカルプラス
So that's going to put us to 5.
全力のアタック
まだまだこれからダメージチェックだよ。よし、フロントトリガーだね。
But we get a front
パ
trigger.
ワープラス。ダメージチェック。よし、フロントトリガー。
Oh, and another front on top of that.
パワ
Okay.
ープラス。
ヴァンガードにアタッ
But
クだよ
unfortunately, she's still going to be able to hit us. And I have piss little in my hand to guard with. So, we're actually going to have to use a perfect guard anyway on that. And I guess we'll have to drop that bubble mine.
ブリッツオーダー。完全ガードだよ。
スキル発動ターンエンド
僕のターン。ドロー。
Alright, so now we can discard Kagula
カーディナルデウス。オルフィストにライド。
to write Cardinal Deus Orfist. And then we can play our In the Darkness Nobody Knows order.
セットオーダー。この宇宙の深淵を。アビサルダークナイト。
So our world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. And we can retire her front row rear guard. So then we can just go ahead and use Orfist's ability
シャドウアーミートークンをコール。
to counter blast 2 and call 3 Shadow Army tokens.
スペリオルコール。
And I do believe we are good. So we'll go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
ノーガード
ドライブチェックだよ。ドロートリガ
We get a draw trigger, nice. So we'll give that power to
ー。パワー
Destigate.
プラス。ドライブチェックだよ。見せてあげよう。この宇宙の深淵を。
ダメージチェック
So next we'll attack with Alvadur.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
ノーガードダメージチェック
And we're not going to use his ability because we need the tokens for Destijade's cost.
ヴァンガードにアタックだよ。
ノーガードダメージチェック。
So we will use Destijade's skill to retire our 3 Shadow Army tokens.
スキル発動。
And we can restand him and attack once again.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
And she guards.
ガード
ターンアウ
私のターンだね。ドローコールコール。
So we still do not have a ton to guard with, but she's only going to get 2 attacks because she still couldn't fill up her field. And for some reason the AI called a draw trigger to the back row with nothing in front of it, but we'll ignore that for the moment and perfect guard this.
スキル発動。
So let's discard this world order.
完全ガードだよ。
ドライブチェック。クリティカルトリガー。
She gets a crit
クリ
trigger.
ティカルプラスパワープラスドライブチェック。ヴァンガードにアタック。
And we're going to have to perfect guard that as well.
スキル発動。
So we'll discard that draw.
完全ガード。
スキル発動。ターンエンド。
僕のターンだね。ドロー。
Alright, so now we can Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド。
And then just use Orfist skill once again
シャドウアーミートークンをコール。
to counter blast 2 and call our 3 tokens.
スペリオルコール。
And once again, we are set up and ready to go. So we will just attack with Orfist
ヴ
first.
ァンガードにアタック。
And she perfect
スキ
guards.
ル発動。完全ガードだね。
ドライブチェック。ドライブチェック。
No triggers off of that. But then we can attack with
ヴ
Alvadur.
ァンガードにアタック。
ガード。
And she guards again, but she's only got 2 cards left, and we can restand Destajade. So we should have her here.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
Attack with Destajade boosted.
ノーガード。
Oh, and she can't guard.
ダメージチェック。
And we got her with that one, alright.
トマリに止めてもらおう。
So there you go. That was our Cardinal Deus Orfist deck. So, like I said, it is more of a just for fun deck. It definitely has a much lower ceiling than Orfist Regis does. But it still can be a pretty fun deck every now and then. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Up next I will have a Orfist Regis build, which will definitely be the stronger of the 2 builds. But until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.